Ava nodded, trying to relax, unaware that the setting had been chosen for its potential to isolate her. She had not yet realized the delicate trap that Bora had woven around her. Ji-ho, however, had anticipated it. From inside the ballroom, he moved quickly but subtly, ensuring he could reach Ava if the situation tipped into danger. His mind raced with possibilities, protective instincts sharp and unyielding. As Bora's guests began to encourage Ava to drink more, suggesting that it would help her blend in and fit the culture, Ji-ho stepped onto the balcony, his presence grounding. "Ava," he said softly, his dark eyes meeting hers. "You don't have to do this. You don't need to prove anything to anyone." Ava's breath caught. Relief flooded her chest. "Ji-ho, I didn't want to seem awkward. I thought this was part of fitting in." He smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You're fitting in perfectly. You don't need wine or schemes to prove it. You're exactly who you should be." Her heart ached at his words, a mixture of gratitude, trust, and affection. The subtle bond between them, nurtured through shared experiences and quiet moments, had grown into something unshakable. Bora's plan, however, was not yet finished. She had ensured that a discreet photographer, tipped off anonymously, would capture moments of Ava holding her wineglass awkwardly, close to Ji-ho's side. Moments that could be easily spun into scandalous interpretations. But when Ji-ho calmly guided Ava away from potential embarrassment, subtly redirecting her and maintaining his protective presence, the photographer's opportunity vanished. The evening that was meant to humiliate and trap Ava instead highlighted Ji-ho's unwavering loyalty and Ava's growing confidence. By the end of the night, Ava's trust in Ji-ho had solidified. She realized that no matter Bora's schemes, no matter the gossip or carefully crafted manipulations, Ji-ho's support was real, steadfast, and deeply personal. Back in the privacy of Ji-ho's penthouse, the tension of the evening melted away. They sat together on the balcony, the city lights reflecting in their eyes. "You were amazing tonight," Ji-ho said softly, his hand brushing hers. "Calm, poised, and unshakable. Exactly who you are." Ava smiled, leaning slightly against him. "I couldn't have done it without you. You make me feel stronger than I ever imagined." He looked at her, the faintest smile touching his lips. "And I'll always be here, Ava. That won't change, no matter what Bora tries." The quiet intimacy of the moment, the trust, the subtle touches, and the shared understanding ignited the spark between them further. It was no longer tentative or fragile. It had grown into something undeniable, a bond that could weather storms and schemes alike. Meanwhile, Bora seethed. Her meticulously crafted plan had failed spectacularly. Ji-ho and Ava's bond had only strengthened under pressure, and the small victories she had hoped for evaporated. Her envy now burned hotter than ever, driving her toward even more audacious schemes. But for now, she had no choice but to watch as her stepsister and Ji-ho thrived in the very situations she had intended to use against them. The night ended with Ji-ho and Ava standing close together on the penthouse balcony, cherry blossoms and city lights framing their silhouettes. Love had sparked fully in the shadows of jealousy, and for the first time, Ava felt truly untouchable, not because the world couldn't harm her, but because Ji-ho's presence gave her the strength to face anything. And Bora's schemes, no matter how elaborate, would only continue to fuel the fire of what had now become an unbreakable bond. The night air of Seoul carried a chill, mingling with the faint scent of cherry blossoms drifting from the city's gardens. The Han estate glittered in the distance, its lights like a small universe, seemingly serene. But inside, tension simmered beneath every polite smile and whispered conversation. Ava adjusted her gown nervously in her room, the pale lavender silk clinging to her in a way that made her feel both elegant and vulnerable. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. This gala wasn't just another social event. It was Bora's stage, her trap, and Ava could sense the storm brewing before it even began. The knock on the door made her jump slightly. "Ready," Ji-ho's calm, deep voice echoed, and Ava felt her chest tighten. He leaned against the doorframe, dressed in his usual tailored black suit, exuding effortless control. His presence always had that effect on her, grounding yet stirring something deeper she hadn't fully acknowledged until now. "I think so," Ava said, trying to sound confident, though her hands were trembling slightly. Ji-ho stepped closer, his hand brushing against hers in the briefest touch that made her heart skip. "Good. Because tonight, whatever happens, I'm not letting you face it alone." Ava's breath caught. That simple assurance carried weight, not just protection but trust and perhaps something more. The gala was alive with the hum of power, wealth, and carefully curated charm. Crystal chandeliers glittered above the polished marble floors, reflecting in the soft smiles of Seoul's elite. Ava felt out of place for a moment, her nerves fluttering, until Ji-ho gently guided her through the crowd. "You're stunning," he murmured just for her, close enough that she could feel the warmth of his breath. "And don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Her cheeks flushed. "Ji-ho?" she whispered, unable to finish. The sound of her name on his lips, so quiet and deliberate, made her pulse race. He smiled, almost teasing, and brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering just a second too long. "Shoo! Just stay with me tonight. Forget the world." Ava's stomach fluttered, a mixture of nervousness and something new, something exciting, an awareness of desire and trust intertwined. She nodded, gripping his arm lightly. Together, they moved through the crowd like a small island of calm amid the storm of stares and whispers. Bora appeared suddenly, radiant and poisonous, her eyes calculating as she watched Ava. "Sister," she said, voice smooth as silk. "I didn't expect to see you here so close to Ji-ho." "How charming." Ava forced a polite smile. "I'm just here to attend, like everyone else." Bora's eyes narrowed just slightly. "Of course, but don't forget, appearances matter. And some people, they thrive on pushing boundaries." A chill ran down Ava's spine, her instincts warning her that Bora's traps were already in motion. Bora subtly guided Ava toward a private lounge, under the guise of networking with influential guests. Glasses of champagne appeared in Ava's hand, gentle encouragements to relax slipping off Bora's lips like honey masking poison. Ava felt her chest tighten, realizing she was entering a game she hadn't fully prepared for. Ji-ho followed at a distance, his eyes dark with vigilance. Every subtle glance, every gentle nudge toward isolation, told him that Bora's plan was dangerous. But the way Ava stood, poised and determined, made his chest ache with admiration and protectiveness. "You're too good at this," he murmured quietly when he finally caught up to her, slipping his hand over hers. "Even under their scrutiny, you're incredible." Ava's heart stuttered. I'm trying," she whispered, leaning slightly into his touch. The closeness, the warmth, the way he silently supported her. It was intoxicating. Ji-ho lowered his voice even further, brushing his thumb over hers. A subtle but intimate gesture. "You don't have to try. You already belong." Ava felt tears prick at her eyes, not from fear, but from the overwhelming strength of his words. For the first time in Seoul, surrounded by judgment and scheming, she felt truly seen. Bora, seeing her manipulation falter, escalated. She suggested the balcony. "A quiet moment to enjoy the city lights," she said with a honeyed smile. Ava hesitated, but Ji-ho was there immediately, placing a protective hand on her elbow. "Let's step outside for a moment," he murmured, guiding her past Bora and her carefully planted guests. The balcony overlooked the glittering cityscape, lights dancing like distant stars. Alone, Ji-ho and Ava finally allowed themselves to exhale. "You always manage to calm me," Ava admitted softly, her hand brushing against his. "Even when everything seems impossible." He took her hand fully, holding it gently, reverently. "That's because I feel the same with you," he admitted quietly, his gaze intense and unflinching. "You make everything else fade, and I can't stop thinking about you." Ava's heart raced. She searched his face, wanting to believe him, needing to trust this unspoken truth. "Ji-ho?" she whispered, leaning closer instinctively, feeling the magnetic pull between them. He met her halfway, the space between them electric with unspoken emotion. Their foreheads touched, breaths mingling, hearts hammering in synchrony. The city, the gossip, Bora's schemes. None of it mattered in this fragile, suspended moment. The world seemed to hold its breath as they stood close, fingers intertwined, lost in the intimacy of the shared moment. And then, gently, Ji-ho leaned slightly back, his lips brushing her temple in a tender, protective gesture. A silent promise. Ava exhaled, relief and longing mingling. She rested her head against his chest, feeling the rhythm of his heartbeat, the warmth of his presence. For the first time, she allowed herself to fully surrender to the connection they shared. But Bora was relentless. Watching from the shadows, her envy flared like a wildfire. If I can't have him, no one can. And if she thinks she's safe, I'll show her otherwise. She had underestimated the strength of their bond. Every subtle attack, every whispered manipulation, only drew Ji-ho and Ava closer, cementing trust and intimacy with every challenge. That night ended with Ji-ho and Ava sitting on the balcony, the city glittering beneath them, hands intertwined, words unnecessary. They had faced Bora's dangerous game and emerged stronger, more connected, and more in love than ever. For Ava, Seoul no longer felt like a hostile world. It felt like a place where love could thrive, even amid jealousy, scandal, and scheming. And for Ji-ho, this was no longer about redemption or reputation. It was about something far deeper, far more intoxicating. The undeniable pull of the woman who had captured his heart. The week after the dangerous balcony encounter had passed with the quiet tension of a storm yet to break. Seoul's social scene buzzed with whispers about the Han family's latest appearances, yet Ava had begun to find her footing in the city. She moved with more confidence, navigating high society's nuances with a subtle elegance, and even Bora's thinly veiled attacks failed to rattle her as much. Yet despite the outward calm, Ava sensed the air shifting. Bora's jealousy was no longer subtle. It had grown dangerous, personal, and Ava could feel it in every calculated glance, every forced smile. Ji-ho, too, had noticed the change. He had been spending more time with Ava, both to teach her the subtleties of Seoul's elite world and to protect her from Bora's manipulations. Their connection had deepened beyond mere affection. It had become a lifeline, a constant comfort amid a world that could feel cold, judgmental, and full of hidden dangers. It was on a crisp Saturday evening that Bora unveiled her boldest scheme yet. An exclusive gala at one of Seoul's most prestigious hotels. Invitations were rare, and attendance was considered a mark of status and influence. Bora had manipulated the guest list with precision, ensuring influential journalists and socialites would be present, ready to witness the moment she had carefully orchestrated. Ava received the invitation with a quiet sense of foreboding. She knew Bora was behind it, and she understood the potential risk. Ji-ho noticed her hesitation the moment he arrived at her apartment. "You're thinking about Bora's games," he said softly, taking her hands in his. Ava nodded. "I can feel it, Ji-ho. Something about tonight. It won't just be another social event." Ji-ho's gaze softened. "Then we'll face it together. No one will touch you. Not her, not anyone." The warmth and reassurance in his words caused a flutter deep in Ava's chest. She squeezed his hands, grateful and slightly breathless. I trust you." "Good," he murmured, his voice low, intimate. "Because I'll protect you, no matter what." The gala was a spectacle of elegance and wealth, with guests moving in fluid, graceful patterns, laughter and soft music filling the grand ballroom. Ava felt her nerves tighten, aware of the watchful eyes of socialites and reporters alike. She moved beside Ji-ho, feeling his presence like a shield. Bora approached, radiant and dangerous, a smile playing on her lips. "Sister," she said smoothly, "I see you've decided to attend. I hope you're prepared. The night can be unpredictable." Ava forced a polite smile. "I'm ready for whatever comes." Bora's eyes glinted, narrowing slightly. "Good. I wouldn't want you to be unprepared." The plan unfolded subtly at first. Bora guided Ava toward a quieter, more isolated section of the ballroom, offering champagne with the softest encouragement to relax. Ava felt the familiar tension rising, the sense of being watched, measured, and manipulated. Ji-ho noticed immediately. He stayed close, whispering reassurances and keeping her grounded. "Ignore them," he said softly. "This is our night, not theirs." Ava nodded, finding courage in his presence. The warmth of his hand on hers, the subtle brush of his arm against her back, the way his eyes never left her. It all reinforced a bond that had grown stronger with each challenge. Then Bora struck. She suggested moving to a private lounge under the pretense of an exclusive networking opportunity. Ava, trusting her own instincts and Ji-ho's steady guidance, followed, unaware of the trap she was walking into. Inside, Bora's carefully selected guests began to subtly question Ava's knowledge of Korean society, her connection to Ji-ho, and her experience navigating elite circles. Ava felt the pressure mounting, the faint sting of embarrassment threatening to shake her confidence. Yet each time she faltered, Ji-ho was there, whispering quietly, guiding her, and reinforcing her strength. "You're more capable than you know," he murmured, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "They don't define you. I do. And I see you." Ava's chest tightened, a mixture of relief, trust, and growing affection swelling within her. In that intimate whisper, the world faded away, leaving only them, a fragile bubble of connection amid the storm of Bora's manipulation. The pivotal moment came when Bora, seeing that her subtle schemes had failed, escalated dramatically. She arranged for a photographer to capture a staged moment, Ava holding her champagne glass awkwardly beside Ji-ho, a scenario that could be spun as scandalous. But Ji-ho anticipated every move. With quiet decisiveness, he guided Ava away, subtly shielding her from cameras and gossip, all while maintaining a protective closeness that made Ava's heart race. The danger Bora had intended to create instead strengthened the bond between them. Later, in the quiet sanctuary of Ji-ho's penthouse, the tension of the evening melted into intimacy. The city glittered beneath them, distant and unimportant compared to the closeness they shared. "You were amazing tonight," Ji-ho whispered, gently brushing his fingers along hers. Calm, poised, beautiful in a way that no one else could see. Ava leaned slightly into him, heart racing. "I couldn't have done it without you," she murmured. "You make me feel like I can handle anything." Ji-ho's eyes softened, dark and intense with unspoken emotion. "No, you were incredible. I just reminded you, and I'll keep reminding you every time you doubt yourself." Her chest tightened, and she pressed her forehead lightly against his. The unspoken intimacy between them crackled with emotion, the distance between desire and affection blurred by trust, vulnerability, and the growing certainty of love. But outside, Bora seethed. Every scheme, every subtle manipulation had failed. Ji-ho and Ava had emerged stronger, their bond unshakable. The jealousy that once simmered had now burned into desperation, pushing Bora toward even more audacious plans. Yet for Ava and Ji-ho, the night had solidified something far more powerful than social appearances or rumors. They had faced Bora's schemes together and emerged victorious, their hearts more intimately entwined than ever before. As they sat on the balcony, hands intertwined, the city lights shimmering beneath them, Ava realized the truth. No scheme, no manipulation, no gossip could break the bond that had grown from trust, protection, and a love neither had fully acknowledged until now. And somewhere in the shadows, Bora's fury only fanned the flames of what had become an undeniable, unstoppable connection between Ji-ho and Ava. The first hints of dawn crept over Seoul, painting the city in soft shades of gold and pink. From Ji-ho's penthouse, the skyline shimmered like a sea of stars settling into daylight. But inside, the world was anything but calm. Ava paced the living room, a mixture of anticipation, dread, and determination etched across her features. Tonight, everything would change. The final confrontation, the ultimate test of their love, and the reckoning for Bora's schemes. Ji-ho entered quietly, his presence immediately grounding. He paused behind her, hands resting lightly on her shoulders. Ava. His deep voice was a lifeline in the storm, steady and reassuring. Whatever happens tonight, we face it together. We always have and we always will. Ava exhaled, letting herself lean back into him. I know. I can't believe it's finally come to this. Ji-ho kissed the top of her head softly. We'll handle it. Together. Her heart fluttered, a mixture of nerves and anticipation, but she felt braver with him by her side. Their bond, tested by Bora's manipulations, had grown into something unshakable. A love fortified by trust, vulnerability, and countless quiet moments of intimacy. The gala Bora had orchestrated this time was the pinnacle of her schemes. A lavish masquerade ball, where anonymity, elegance, and strategic exposure collided. Influential guests swirled through the grand ballroom, their masks glittering under chandeliers that sparkled like stars. Every detail had been meticulously planned by Bora. The lighting, the seating, the strategically placed photographers, all designed to isolate Ava, create vulnerability, and manufacture scandal. Ava's nerves tightened as she adjusted her elegant gown, the pale lavender silk now accented with subtle silver embroidery. The mask she wore concealed her identity just enough to create intrigue, but it could not hide the tension coiled in her chest. Ji-ho appeared beside her, wearing a black tailored suit and a sleek mask that only emphasized the intensity of his gaze. He extended his hand, and when Ava took it, a surge of warmth and certainty flowed through her. You're stunning, he murmured, low enough for only her to hear. And tonight, nothing can touch you. Her cheeks flushed. Ji-ho, she whispered, leaning slightly toward him. Every glance, every word, every subtle brush of their fingers was electric, and her pulse raced. He smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from her neck. Shoo! Just stay with me. The warmth in his words, and the weight of his unwavering presence, made Ava feel invincible. Bora entered the ballroom with all the elegance of a queen surveying her court. She wore a deep emerald gown, her mask glittering with diamonds that reflected the chandelier lights. Every step, every smile, every gesture was designed to intimidate and manipulate. Her eyes, however, found Ava almost immediately, narrowing slightly. The first phase of her plan unfolded as she subtly guided Ava toward a side room, under the guise of introducing her to influential guests. Champagne appeared in Ava's hand, offered with a soft encouragement that was laced with calculated intent. Ava felt the familiar tightening of her chest, the sense of being watched, measured, and manipulated. But Ji-ho's steady presence by her side made her feel grounded. His hand brushed against hers, and she squeezed it lightly, drawing courage from the warmth and reassurance of his touch. You don't have to do anything for them, Ji-ho whispered, low and intimate. You're more than enough. You've always been enough. Ava's heart swelled. She faltered, overwhelmed by the combination of fear, excitement, and trust. Ji-ho gently tilted her chin upward, forcing her to meet his gaze. I see you, he said softly. Everything you are. And I'm not letting anyone diminish that. Ava felt her chest tighten with emotion, a mixture of relief, longing, and affection. The intimacy between them, the closeness that had grown over weeks of trials, challenges, and shared moments, felt almost tangible, a thread of connection stronger than any of Bora's schemes. Bora, realizing her subtle manipulations had failed yet again, escalated to her final, audacious plan. She had arranged for a private photographer to capture what she thought would be a compromising moment between Ji-ho and Ava, intending to use it as evidence to humiliate Ava and fracture the trust between them. But Bora had underestimated the bond between Ji-ho and Ava. As soon as the situation threatened to spiral, Ji-ho calmly, decisively guided Ava away, subtly shielding her from prying eyes while maintaining an intimate closeness that spoke volumes about their trust and affection. The photographers, unable to capture anything scandalous, could only record a fleeting image of elegance, poise, and undeniable connection. A stark contrast to the story Bora had hoped to create. Finally, the confrontation came. Bora, frustrated and furious, confronted Ava in the grand ballroom. The crowd parted slightly as whispers spread, sensing the tension between the two women. "You think you can just waltz into this world and take everything from me?" Bora's voice dripped with venom, her mask hiding none of the fury in her eyes. Ava's hands trembled slightly, but she drew strength from Ji-ho, who stood protectively beside her. "I don't want to take anything from you," she said evenly. "I just want to live my life and be true to myself. And I won't let your schemes make me doubt who I am." Ji-ho stepped forward, dark eyes blazing. "Bora, stop. This ends tonight. You can't manipulate or hurt her anymore. Not her. Not us." Bora's eyes narrowed, realizing that her plan had completely backfired. Instead of isolating Ava, she had only strengthened the bond between the two of them. Her schemes, meant to destroy, had inadvertently showcased the depth of Ji-ho and Ava's love and trust. The tension in the ballroom was palpable as Bora's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. Guests whispered, sensing the emotional truth in the exchange. Ava and Ji-ho's connection was real, unwavering, and unshakable. Bora's anger flared, but there was no way to spin the narrative in her favor. The truth was visible in every glance, every touch, every subtle gesture between Ava and Ji-ho. Ava exhaled quietly, resting a hand lightly against Ji-ho's arm. We're okay," she whispered, her voice soft but full of emotion. Ji-ho's hand covered hers, squeezing gently. "We're more than okay," he murmured. "We're stronger than ever." And in that moment, under the crystal chandeliers and glittering masks, they shared a quiet intimacy. A kiss on the temple, a brush of fingers, a closeness that needed no words, fade to black intimacy that carried the full weight of their love, trust, and shared victory over jealousy. Bora's defeat was complete. Her schemes had failed spectacularly, and the public perception shifted in Ava's favor. The woman who had been vilified and tested emerged as poised, graceful, and unshakable, and it was Ji-ho's unwavering support that highlighted her strength. For Ji-ho, the transformation was equally profound. The once reckless, prodigal heir had been redeemed not by his family, but by love, by Ava's unwavering trust, strength, and presence. Together, they had conquered manipulation, jealousy, and social scrutiny. In the quiet aftermath, Ji-ho and Ava stood on the penthouse balcony, the city lights twinkling beneath them like a private constellation. The tension, the fear, the schemes, all of it had melted away. "I can't believe it's finally over," Ava whispered, resting her head against Ji-ho's chest. Ji-ho's hand brushed along her hair, holding her gently. "It's never really over," he said softly. "But as long as we're together, nothing can break us." Ava smiled, a mixture of relief, love, and quiet triumph. "Together," she agreed, squeezing his hand. And for the first time, the Han estate, the city, the world, felt like a place where love truly could triumph over jealousy, schemes, and scandal. Bora's fury would fade, replaced by the reality that some bonds could not be broken, some hearts could not be swayed, and some love, like theirs, was simply unstoppable. As the dawn broke fully over Seoul, Ji-ho and Ava held each other close, knowing that no matter what challenges remained, they had already won the most important battle, each other. The Han family estate glowed in the gentle warmth of late afternoon sunlight. Cherry blossoms swirled in the breeze, their petals drifting lazily across the manicured gardens. For Ava, this garden had always held a quiet longing, the place where she had hoped to connect with her father, Mr. Han. And now, as she walked through the estate hand in hand with Ji-ho, her heart was full of joy. "Are you nervous?" Ji-ho's deep voice pulled her out of her thoughts. He looked at her, his dark eyes soft but sparkling with affection. Ava shook her head, smiling. "I've never been more ready. Today, it finally feels like home." Ji-ho squeezed her hand gently. "Good, because you deserve this. And they'll see it too, just like I do." Inside the Han estate, Mr. Han waited in the sunlit garden. His expression was calm but carried the warmth of a father who had longed to embrace his daughter fully. Ava approached him slowly, her heart hammering in her chest. "Father," she said softly, bowing slightly out of respect and nervousness. He stepped forward, a gentle smile breaking across his face. "Ava," he said warmly, his voice tender, "it's time you knew. You've always been my daughter. I am proud of you. Always have been, always will be." Tears pricked at Ava's eyes, and she closed the distance between them, enveloped in his embrace. For the first time in her life, she felt completely accepted, loved as herself, without judgment, without expectation. Not far away, the Kang family estate was alive with laughter and celebration. Ji-ho's transformation, from reckless, prodigal son to grounded, caring young man, had been nothing short of miraculous, and all credit belonged to Ava. Tonight, the Kangs were gathered to formally welcome her into their family. Mr. Kang, his usually stern demeanor softened, approached Ava with a warm smile. "You've changed him," he said, voice carrying both pride and gratitude. "Ji-ho is the son I always hoped he could be, but I never imagined it would take someone like you to bring him here. You've earned your place in this family, Ava. We welcome you with open hearts." Ji-ho, standing close beside her, felt a surge of affection and relief. "She's always been amazing," he said quietly, just for his father to hear. "And now, everyone sees it too." Ava blushed, squeezing Ji-ho's hand. "I didn't do it alone," she whispered. "He changed too, because he wanted to be better." Ji-ho smiled, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "We changed together," he said softly. "And now, we can finally be happy." Bora, observing from the edge of the gathering, realized that all her schemes had failed. The love between Ji-ho and Ava was unshakable, visible in every glance, every touch, every subtle smile they shared. Her jealousy could no longer stand against the reality that Ava had not only captured Ji-ho's heart, but had also earned the love and respect of both families. The day ended with Ava standing between her father and Ji-ho, hands intertwined with both men, surrounded by laughter, warmth, and blooming cherry blossoms. She had come to Seoul in search of family and love, and she had found both, fully, deeply, and unconditionally. "Today," Mr. Han said softly, "you are our daughter. Our family is whole because of you." And, Mr. Kang added, smiling at Ava and Ji-ho, "You have reminded all of us what truly matters: love, trust, and the courage to be better for the people we care about. You are part of this family now, Ava. Always." Ava's chest tightened with emotion as she looked at Ji-ho, seeing reflected in his eyes the same joy, relief, and love that filled her own heart. The trials, the schemes, the jealousy, none of it mattered anymore. In that moment, surrounded by her father, Ji-ho, and the Kang family, Ava realized she had not just found love. She had found home, a place of warmth, acceptance, and happiness. A place where hearts were open and love truly triumphed. Ji-ho leaned down, brushing a gentle kiss along her temple, a private affirmation of everything they had endured and all they had won. "Together," he whispered. "Together," Ava echoed, smiling through tears, knowing that she had finally fulfilled her wish, to be loved, accepted, and cherished by her father, by Ji-ho, and by their families united. And in the blooming sunlight of Seoul, with laughter, affection, and peace surrounding them, they knew love had truly triumphed. Soft music filled the hall, a gentle blend of Korean strings and soulful jazz, a tribute to both sides of Ava's heritage. The room shimmered with white lilies, gold accents, and subtle touches of blush pink. Cherry blossoms hung above the altar, a living symbol of Seoul's spring and new beginnings. Ava stood at the entrance in her gown, an elegant fusion of cultures. The top was inspired by a modern hanbok, fitted and delicately embroidered with gold threads, while the flowing skirt mirrored a Western bridal style, soft and airy. Her hair was adorned with white petals, and her smile glowed brighter than the chandeliers above. When Ji-ho saw her, the world stilled. The once reckless billionaire, now a man transformed, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. His eyes shimmered, This was no fleeting passion. It was the woman who had taught him to be whole again. As she walked down the aisle, arm in arm with her father, Mr. Han, everyone rose to their feet. The Kang and Han families sat side by side, once separated by pride and misunderstanding, now united in shared joy. Mr. Kang's gaze softened with pride as he nodded toward Ji-ho, silently saying, "You've become the man I hoped you'd be." At the altar, Ji-ho whispered as Ava reached him, "You're more beautiful than I dreamed." Ava smiled, eyes glistening. "And you're finally the man I always believed you were." The officiant's words faded into the background as they exchanged vows. Simple, heartfelt promises whispered through trembling voices. To love without fear. To grow without pride. To walk through every storm, together. When they kissed, applause erupted, joyful, thunderous, sincere. Cherry blossom petals drifted from the ceiling as if Seoul itself was blessing their union. The sun was warm and golden. Laughter filled the air as both families shared a quiet lunch in the garden that had once been a symbol of distance, now turned into a place of belonging. Mr. Kang poured tea for Mr. Han. "Our children did what we could not," he said with a smile. "They taught us how to forgive." Mr. Han chuckled softly, "and how to love again without boundaries." Nearby, Ava and Ji-ho sat beneath a cherry tree, their hands entwined. Ava leaned her head on his shoulder as he traced soft circles on her palm. "Do you remember when we met?" he asked. "How could I forget?" She laughed. "You were Seoul's most spoiled prince. And you," he teased, "were the girl who made the prince fall to his knees." She smiled. "No, I was just the girl who believed you could be more." Ji-ho kissed her hand. "And you were right. Because of you, I became the man I wanted to be." They looked up as Mr. Han called, "Come, children, a family photo before the sun sets." Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, leave us a comment. Also like, share and subscribe to our channel, and click on the notification bell to get notified whenever a new story is made.